Now, for the latest on the possible impact of the US-China trade war on Huawei smartphone and tablet users, so we're now joined via Skype from Miami, Florida, in the United States by mobile communications and technologies commentator Arthur Goldstuck. Hello, Arthur. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, and I hope you're enjoying great weather there in Miami, Florida. Isn't that where Disneyland is?
It's wonderful weather. Disneyland is a little further north in Orlando, but bus ride away.
All right, so not such great fun for Huawei. This trade war between China and the US has been playing out for some time now, and Huawei was always kind of on the radar. Tell us what the decision, that the executive order that was signed by Donald Trump, means for Huawei and perhaps for us consumers in South Africa who've been buying up Huawei phones quite a bit in recent times.
It's quite disastrous for the entire technology sector because it doesn't only affect Huawei and its customers. But the first point to get out of the way is that current users of Huawei handsets won't be affected, because the ban doesn't take in what is currently on your phone or the updates to what is on your phone. And Google itself has announced, in fact, through a Twitter post yesterday, that it would carry on supporting existing handsets, and both updates to the operating system, the Android operating system, and security updates would be honored by Google. The problem comes with the next generation of devices. So Huawei is expected to launch their new Mate series later this year. And suddenly, as things stand right now, they cannot use any American-based software. So it's not only Google and the Play Store with the whole apps ecosystem that implies, along with YouTube and Maps and the like. Even Gmail is affected by the Google ban. But other American companies as well, like Microsoft and its OneDrive service, the Google Chrome browser, Intel chips that have been used, Qualcomm chips that have been used in Huawei phones, all of those companies are affected. And the one potential backlash from China is that they might bar the manufacture of Apple iPhones in China, which are all made, or assembled rather, in Chinese factories. So that could have a massive negative effect on Apple. It will set back this supply chain, and it means that the next editions or the next generations of Apple phones will have to be delayed, probably for quite a long period. And then the cost of those devices is going to be so much higher because they won't have access to the low-cost manufacture in Chinese factories. So it's going to have a massive negative effect on the entire mobile phone industry, and ultimately probably on the entire technology sector. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a slump in tech stocks very shortly.
So Huawei, I believe, have been working on developing an operating system. If that comes into play, then America will need China much more than China needs America.
At this stage, it might seem that way, but right now Huawei does need America more than America needs Huawei. But in the medium term, it's probably going to flip around. If Huawei does develop its own operating system and its own apps ecosystem, then we could see it become a major competitor to American software and hardware developers. Already Huawei has their own operating system in development, and they've been using their own chips, especially for artificial intelligence. So gradually reducing their reliance on American technology. Now, if it becomes a Chinese technology world versus an American technology world, then America will probably suffer severely, because the Chinese market and the markets that are still willing to accept Huawei products is far bigger than the American market. So we could see fragmentation of Android versus iOS versus the new operating system from Huawei in the coming years.
Donald Trump, less than 2 years away from facing another election. Why would he do this, which can obviously injure some of America's biggest companies?
Well, as we know, Donald Trump engages in knee-jerk politics. Very often, based on something he reads on Twitter, he'll suddenly have a knee-jerk reaction and issue an executive order. My suspicion is that there's a kind of iPhone pathology at work here as well, because he's a keen iPhone user. He has two that he uses simultaneously. And as you are probably aware, iPhone users tend to be very passionate about how much better their technology is than everyone else's. So here comes Huawei, this company that emerged from nowhere in the smartphone world, suddenly developing better phones. The P30 Pro is superior to anything Apple has at the moment, and starting to outsell Apple globally. They were on a trajectory to become the number one smartphone vendor in the world by the end of this year. That must be incredibly galling to diehard American patriots, especially those who see trade as a form of patriotism. So that, I believe, is part of the explanation for Donald Trump deciding almost unilaterally to ban Huawei or any trade with Huawei at all.
Is there a basis for the security concerns that he's been raising regarding companies like Huawei?
It's all conspiracy theory. And of course, he's not beyond falling for conspiracy theories, or at least promoting and fomenting conspiracy theories. There's no evidence presented whatsoever. It's all in theory that the Chinese government has a law that requires all Chinese companies to collaborate, or cooperate rather, with the authorities in any investigation of any kind. So this has been taken to then mean that Huawei will build backdoors into their phones for any spying on any phone user, and also spying capabilities into its 5G network equipment. So any country or any network operator rolling out 5G networks potentially is allowing the Chinese government to spy on all communications in that country. That's the conspiracy theory. But if Huawei were to do that, and they've stressed that they would not do anything like that, but if they were to do it and it was found out, it would be the end of Huawei as a technology provider to the world. So it's quite absurd that a company would take that kind of risk. But the bottom line is no evidence whatsoever has been presented for this claim.
All right, getting back to the consumer, if I'm due an upgrade and due a new phone, do I hold off for a while and wait to see how this plays out, or do I just get the phone that I like at this stage, even if it is a Huawei?
At this stage, get the phone that you like. The best phones in the world right now are from Samsung and Huawei. If you're an Apple fanboy, obviously you'll stick to those. But if you've discovered the previous Huawei flagship, the P20 Pro, and you love that, then the P30 Pro is going to be a no-brainer. And there's no reason not to get it at this stage. Samsung fans would probably stick to the new Samsung S10, which is almost every bit as good, but the camera on the Huawei is superior, and that right now will sway a lot of people. They will be scared off by the negative publicity, of course, but for the current phones, there's no reason not to upgrade to one of these.
All right, so Arthur Goldstuck, enjoy America, and we'll see you when you get back home. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, okay, so that's tech commentator Arthur Goldstuck talking to us via Skype all the way from Miami in Florida.